Hey cutie. Welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Laura. Hi, hello, welcome. I sat down to film this video. I pulled my palettes that I am like super excited to reach for in spring. And then I looked them up just to make sure if they were still available or not, just to tell you guys. And half of the palettes that I really am craving to reach for this spring are no longer available, and I'm actually I'm super shocked by one of them. Two of them, like, I totally understand. One for sure I understood, but I am so surprised right now with one of the palettes. So if you want to just shop your stash for palettes that are spring appropriate, I would love to know in the comments below what you're reaching for this spring. I am going to really try to not be shopping and buying makeup. I'm so sick of spending money. I'm so sick of how expensive everything is getting, and I have so much beautiful stuff in my collection, and I'm sure you also have so much beautiful things in your collection. So I highly encourage you to shop your stash. You do not need to buy a new palette, although one of these palettes is definitely new. So if you like shopping your stash, looking at what you have, project pans, using up your makeup, that kind of thing is your kind of thing, I'd love it if you subscribe so you can be a cutie too. I'm going to start with the item that I knew was limited edition, and that is this palette here. This is the Pinker Times Ahead palette by Too Faced. It is such a beautiful, beautiful springy palette. This I knew was limited edition. This one I think came out in 2022 or 2023. I can't quite remember, but I was working at Ulta when this came out, and I did purchase this while I was there. When this came out, it reminded me, especially these like marbled shimmers, reminded me of the Urban Decay Stoned Vibes palette that I had extreme FOMO of. So I wanted to pick this up and kind of scratch the itch of missing out on that that Urban Decay palette. And this palette is truly so nice. I actually really, really love this palette, and I could definitely see myself wanting to pan this eventually. I know it like literally does not look like I've barely used it, but I love this palette. I think the formula of the shimmers is really nice. The formula of the mattes is really nice. These are more soft mattes from Too Faced in my experience. I look at this palette and it makes me really excited to reach for this in spring. It looks like candy. It looks like spring flowers. I'm just super pumped about this. But this was a limited edition palette when it did come out. But if you have anything similar, I definitely encourage you to reach for shades similar to this in your collection. I actually didn't realize this was limited edition. However, I looked at Sugar Drizzle's website and they are trying to like clear out a bunch of stock. So it makes sense that this doesn't exist anymore. But that was the Sugar Drizzle Sugar Dreams palette. It's full of duo and multi-chrome shades. It's just so much fun. Again, very reminiscent of like candy and like Smarties, things that you would get in like an Easter basket kind of thing. So I really like this. There's definitely shades like this purple that are not my cup of tea. And that shade actually has like fallen apart and kind of just crumbled. So that's not a big deal for that shade, but I really love all the other shades in this palette, especially Shooting Star. That's one of my favorite shades in this palette. It's a pink that has a really intense blue shift, but every single shade in here is just so, so pretty. I really, really love the formula of these Sugar Drizzle Polish shadows, and I definitely can see myself wanting to purchase more eventually. The last of my discontinued palettes, was really, really surprised when I was looking this one up that this is discontinued. However, it looks like Adept has really changed some of the way that their palettes are and have reformulated some palettes. So it would not surprise me if this does come back in a larger reformulated version. The Plain Jane Remastered palette, which was already a like remade palette from Adept. This is so pretty though, and I'm so shocked that this is no longer around on their website. I did take out 2 shades and I passed them along to a friend. They were multi-chrome type shadows that I have in my collection elsewhere and figured she would enjoy using them a lot more than I would. But nonetheless, this is such a nice palette. It has some deeper shades to really ground and make it look more intense and interesting. But most of these are really reflective, really beautiful, soft, light, incredible multi-chromes. I love these types of purples. You guys know I love those types of purple. Clearly, I love this shade up here. Surprisingly, I don't love this shade that much, but I hit pan in it. But I love every single other shade in this palette. It has a reason why I didn't declutter any of these, but this is such a beautiful palette. And again, it's such a nice staple palette of really light, bright, fun springtime shades. Moving to the palettes that are still available if you did want to purchase them. But again, I highly encourage you to shop your stash and maybe try duping this out in your collection. I'm not saying that you have to run out and purchase these. Things are expensive. This is an older palette. However, it is still one of my favorite springtime palettes. It launched in the spring, I think in 2020 actually. My Pretty Guardian palette by Colourpop and Sailor Moon. This is so much fun, and I have used and abused and loved this palette so much. Clearly, I have a ton of pan in this palette. Everything but one shade has pan in it, and then I have 2 empty pans actually in this palette. This was part of my rotational build your own palette for Pan That Palette last year, and I really did enjoy like fluctuating through shades and just hitting pan in so much last year. And this was such a great staple palette to wear in the springtime. I put a lot of these shades in for spring and then just kept fluctuating them in and out. And I'm so excited to reach for these shades in the springtime. You will notice there is a shade in this palette that is currently in my 10 pan project pan now, and I am excited to reach and grab for this palette throughout the next couple months and hopefully finish a shade in here. Next is a palette that I am wearing on my eyes today, mixed with some single shadows in my collection, but another great springtime palette in my opinion. The Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette. There is something so special about these kinds of shades in the springtime. I love mint shadows. They're absolutely my favorite types of eyeshadows, but this palette in general is just so perfect for spring because of it. It has more of those sagey, cooler toned green shadows, but it has some of those pinks and like more grounding shades with the cooler toned browns that are in this. And there's just so much versatility in this palette. Like you can make a very green look. You can also make a very neutral look. You can really deepen things out with these two like darker warm browns. And this Flare shade is just gorgeous. These two shades are absolutely stunning. Flare and Palladian. There's a ton of like cream to matte formulas in here. I feel like these three are all cream to matte formulas. Really beautiful. Really enjoy this. Really soft formula in the mattes, which is nice for this type of shade, that it's not a hard pressed like version of those types of shades. Glamlight has a couple of those in the Ice Cream Dream palette, and they are very firm pressed and don't offer a lot of color payoff, whereas the greens in this palette are more pastel. However, they do still give a really great impact on the eye, and I do think that is more so because of the formula that they are. It's more of that cream to matte type formula from Natasha Denona, but I love this. This is just so pretty. Then this one is a little bit of a cheat because this is a brand new palette in my collection, but it definitely screams springtime with me, and I even mentioned it in the video that this palette with that last palette actually are probably my favorite kind of pairing of eyeshadows. Miss Natasha Denona Bloom palette. This is her brand new release from this year, and this is so stunning. I absolutely love this. I love that it's more coral tones. I honestly think that more of these coral shades with some of these more mints would actually have paired a little bit better in my opinion. However, I do think these are going to pair so stunningly well together, which is why I want to pair them into the spring rotation. And this is just so stunning. I will just caveat to say the more intense shimmers, like those shimmers that were really something special in her swatches, I don't think that Lush, this shade here, it's a very sheer shimmer shadow. Definitely needs either a glitter glue or for you to really layer things on top of it to get a nice impact. So if you were like, I want that shade and it's just going to look like molten, beautiful metal on my eyes, it needs a glitter primer in order to do that. And if that frustrates you with something like that's so expensive like this, I definitely recommend maybe maybe a less expensive palette or maybe a single shadow in something similar like this with maybe a Clionadh, because they have such intense formula right off the rip. But that's not going to hinder me from wanting to use this. I actually have already, little spoiler, already hit No Pan Left Behind in this month. And I'm so excited about this palette. I think that this is so stunning. I cannot wait to pair this with my Pan That palette, with some of these mint shades, with just other shades in general in my collection. Honestly, I feel like these corals and then maybe like a lilac or a lavender would look really pretty as well, just to give like that springtime into summertime kind of look with some of these more rich reds. I just love this. I think that this was such a beautiful, beautiful palette. And this is chock full of the cream to matte type formula. I think there's another like silky matte formula, which is to me like the cream to matte formula. So if you hate her cream to matte formula, I think you would hate this. And if you are anticipating these two shimmers to be very impactful and like full color, I think you'd be disappointed with this palette in all honesty. However, I love the cream to matte formula. That is why I wanted to purchase this palette, because I know how much I love that formula. Those are my 6 palettes that I'm reaching for this spring. 3 of them are discontinued. I am sorry about that. But 3 of them are available if you so choose. But I would love to know, what are you reaching for this spring? Are you reaching for more of your singles? Are you reaching for more palettes? What are you doing this spring? Let me know. Maybe you're not even reaching for palettes, and maybe you're like, spring is when I like to wear my really bold lipsticks. And I love that for you. If I had a lot of bold lipsticks this time of year, maybe I would reach for them too. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're staying healthy, sane, and safe, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.
Close your eyes, count to 10, and tell me